why do you think, from your vantage point as a veteran, why do you think we don't see the camaraderie? Why do you think black comedians or black actors don't really unify in the space of Hollywood?
Um, there's a term called arrested development, and a lot of people just can't let things go. You gotta let it go. You gotta, I'm sure there's a bunch of cliches about holding on to baggage, and a lot of people have held on to baggage. I mean, you look at Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey was stealing some jokes. It was like blatant, but it was a bunch of people stealing jokes. And you almost had to steal jokes in the beginning of your career just to understand what timing was. Like, if you couldn't tell a joke, so you had to do a really good joke to understand what timing was. And everyone, Richard Pryor will tell you, stole jokes. This person stole jokes. So Steve Harvey felt like he was the king, and I'm gonna take that joke. But then when he started taking, I'm gonna tell you this too. Everybody stole from Mark Curry. Mark Curry was one of the most prolific geniuses of comedy. Like, his stuff, he would riff, and people would be like, "He never gonna say that again. I'm gonna take that."
Wow.
Because he could just, like, Mark would do like 20 minutes of just stuff that he probably wouldn't. Mark Curry has forgotten about more comedy that he has said than a lot of people have written. So, but also he needs to let go of Steve Harvey and let the chips fall where they may with Steve Harvey. Because when you start saying you, I mean, he was, if you see Def Jam 25, everybody's like on stage, Mark back there cussing.
Right. We saw that footage. I was gonna say you kind of opened up. Yeah, you opened up, that conversation with Steve. I think that, yeah, he's been called out. We've seen Mark Curry call him out. Cedric the Entertainer got called out by Cat Williams. But I think a lot of it has to deal with, these guys have kind of somewhat made it, right? In quotation, Steve Harvey made it. And looking at it from a vantage point, Steve Harvey's probably more financially and brand more well off than Mark Curry. So I can understand Mark's frustration of like, dude, you interfered or you may have took off my plate, and like you said back then, Steve was stealing. Were people not checking him then?
Steve Harvey did not make it off of Mark Curry's UPS Halloween joke.
He didn't make, I'm not saying he made it, but it's like, what if it helped in that moment? Like, it's all steps, right? So what if a producer saw that bit and was like, oh, that was really clever, that was really funny, I'm gonna give you this opportunity.
Trust me, he didn't get no opportunities off of Mark Curry's Halloween bit. He was already plateaued by the time he started looking back. Because listen, too, in Steve Harvey's defense, when you have that much cheddar in the bag, that much cheese, that much De Niro, you start losing things in your life that you can use that are funny. So you gotta reach back. But he just he happened to reach back into Mark Curry's childhood. Mark Curry's not where Steve is, not because of Steve, because of Mark Curry. So let's be clear.
That's real.
Nobody's gonna stop you. If you're meant to be there and you match that frequency, listen, Steve Harvey said, this is where I'm going to be. He envisioned it. He thought about it. That's all he thought about. So that frequency matched. Steve Harvey said, I'm going to have $100 million in the bank. And that's what he thought about. You and I had this conversation. Thinking about $100 million is the exact same frequency as actually having $100 million. So if you think about it long enough, the universe has no other choice but to bring it together. But we get in our own way, talking about he stole my UPS joke. He did this to me. Get out your own way. That's the stuff that you have to let go and let the universe get at Steve on that. You ain't gonna get at Steve. You're gonna be on Def Jam stage They're arguing.
What I was saying is that when Steve was not necessarily that particular joke, but if you said Steve was taking a little bit from everybody back in the day, was no one checking him? Was no one like saying, "Yo"? Was no one coming up to him like the way we saw Mark Curry on Def Jam 25?
Oh yeah, all the time. All the time I would hear about there was a dude named James Hanna that used to get at him all the time.
Rest in
James
peace.
died of a
Yeah.
heart attack in his early
Right.
40s. I don't
Yeah.
care. It's four people right now that's doing bits out of my life that I did on stage. When I decided I wasn't going to do comedy anymore, I would go here and there, work some stuff out, but I would leave the club and my material would stay. And there's some big names right to this day that are doing those bits. What I'm gonna do? Put down my spatula in my
You
in
can
my
put him.
cast iron skillet and
You
get
can
at them like they doing my joke.
you can call him out on an interview.
No, nah, I don't care. Have fun with
Yeah.
that joke.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad that joke is living because I'm not doing anything. It's done. And particularly like, the stuff that okay, Cat Williams said that Cedric the Entertainer was doing one of his jokes. The joke was done for Cat. And I'm not giving Cedric a pass, and I'm not trying to say anything against Cat Williams. But what I'm saying is, if Cat did it on TV and it was a big crescendo, the joke is done for him. It's not like a song, and you can show up and just keep singing that same song. Once you do that bit, it's kind of dead for you.
All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this teaser. You can watch the full interview right now at hypersclub.com, along with more behind the scenes and additional content.